Spoilers for Deltarune Chapter 5. Alright, let me get straight to the point. This does not make sense. If you've played past Deltarune Chapter 1, there's a good chance you have at least seen mention of the Twisted Sword and Pure Crystal. These two elusive items are part of the same fusion recipe involving the Thorn Ring, that damn weird root enabling whatever it is. It's long been speculated that the Twisted Sword would be the culmination of said weird root, given that it uses the Thorn Ring, and the presumed end goal of the 5 Shadow Crystals, indicated by the Pure Crystal's inscription. The Shadow purified by the cat. Cat most likely meaning Sham, who's been asking us to get the Shadow Crystals. Getting spammed in Neo's Crystal is required for the weird root anyways, so it just makes sense, right? Well, throw that out of your nearest conveniently placed window because you can't get 5 Shadow Crystals in the weird root. Doing Weird Root in Chapter 5 locks you out of Pink's Shadow Crystal, and potentially locks you out of Castletown, so the Pure Crystal is off the table, much less the Twisted Sword. There would also be no reason to have the Twisted Sword in a normal Chapter 2 aborted Weird Root, since Noelle isn't under any influence, as seen when Chris takes out the thorn from Noelle's hand after Chapter 2 Weird Root. Statistically, the Twisted Sword is identical to the Black Shard you get from the Knight, save for the fact that it can't be equipped onto Noelle, and the Twisted Sword has the Trance Down effect. You would have the Black Shard when you get the Twisted Sword because the Knight's Shadow Crystal is required of it. So why does it exist? Well, I have a theory. No, go away, MatPat. What if Noelle was still under the influence of trance, while you could still get all 5 Shadow Crystals for the Pure Crystal? Then you could potentially make the Twisted Sword to remove that trance effect. So it's awfully convenient that there's a way you can abort the Weird Root in Chapter 5, isn't it? Deltarune makes it abundantly clear that Chapter 4 is the point of no return for the Weird Root, with how many times it gives you to abort it. So it feels bizarre that Toby would add another way to abort it in Chapter 5. Except you don't abort it in Chapter 5. Now, I can't say from a coding perspective that this is the case, but dialogue does change if you abort it in Chapter 5. Susie doesn't walk back and forth with the ice cream looking for Noelle, rather coming back to stay with Chris so they don't have to be alone. Ralsei is incredibly relieved the moment you see him that Chris is alright, barely even acknowledging Flowery like he normally does. Susie directly mentions that Chris's hair was wet while they are talking in Flower Castle, even though in the normal route Chris never touched the water. The scene at the lake did happen in the aborted Chapter 5 Weird Root. Noelle never made a French fry song, Susie never carried Noelle into the lake, and Carol never called Noelle about Rudy falling down. Keep that last one in mind for later. This means that Noelle still has the Thorn Ring and whatever that red pixel is, which I believe to be the effect of trance. Noelle still had her character break moment. She still forced us, and by extension Chris, to say proceed. Well, this is the crux of my theory, which I have dubbed Third Root Theory. No, not that root, the other root. It's been fairly established that the Weird Root is an attempt to break the prophecy by any means necessary. Ralsei mentions at the end of Chapter 4 Weird Root that if there was some way to break the prophecy, they wouldn't know if it would be worse. Chapter 5 seems to confirm this, as we will be completely skipping Chapter 6 and instead skip straight to Chapter 7 Side B to continue the Weird Root. Why? Because of Noelle. Noelle, under the trance effect, breaks free from the script she found herself in. She broke free from being Noelle and instead became something else. She is the force through which the prophecy is broken, despite her saying that we were the ones to do it. So what if we could break free from the prophecy while not traveling whatever dark path the Weird Root is traveling? The aborted Chapter 5 Weird Root, which I will now simply call the abnormal route due to its in-between state of the two, still has Susie suggest that Noelle get into the Dark World business, with her even prepping Castletown for her arrival. In the abnormal route, Noelle still has the Thorn Ring, so if Noelle enters Castletown with us in Chapter 6, then that would mean that Sham, Smith Malleus, all 5 Shadow Crystals, and the Thorn Ring are in the same place, and that means we can get the Twisted Sword. Noelle has already broken free from her character, and now she's just kind of crazy. She's not even in the I know too much crazy gang, because she still evidently doesn't know about the soul, as she simply attributes Chris's recent behavior, our behavior, as Chris changing. Chris didn't change, Chris never changed. Chris still cares about Susie, still cares about Ralsei, still cares about Noelle. They just can't do anything because we are in control. Noelle broke free from being Noelle with the trance effect, so now we just have to make her lucid again, perhaps with a trance down effect. Noelle breaking from her character is already the reason why we can defy the prophecy, so if we can defy it while still maintaining the route we've been taking, then there might be a way to avert whatever that last prophecy panel was. If you have a problem with the theory, go argue in the comments, it gives the video engagement. Alternatively, feel free to converse about the theory as a whole in a positive tone. I'm intending this video to bring to light some inconsistencies with what we've seen so far, particularly with the Twisted Sword. If you have a problem with that, then you need to go